Hey guys, Chris here. Tonight I'm in the Sierra Nevada and I have a story about a little boy who was with his family on a vacation at a cabin in Wisconsin, and he sees something in the forest that's really frightening and no one else in the family sees it until later his father sees it as well. That's next. And for tonight's beer, we have from the Wasatch Brewery an apricot Hefeweizen. Check that out. It tastes like crisp, tart, and tantalizing. That's what it says. Established in 1986. Should be pretty interesting. We're going to drop that in the Carson River. So we are right next to the Carson River here. It is pretty low right now, a lot of boulders. It's really interesting. There's pools and little waterfalls all over. I had to kind of move to a spot that was a little quieter so I could do the story here, because some of those falls are really loud. Anyways, time to crack the apricot beer. I've never had an apricot beer before. That is, might be a little too fruity for me, but we shall see. I'm going to take it right out of the can here. I can smell it already. That smell is really pretty good. Wow. That is a different taste. That's actually really pretty good. It's apricot. It definitely got an apricot flavor to it, so wow. All right, let's get some in the can here. So this story takes place in Wisconsin, and I grew up in Minnesota, so it's really similar country as far as the forests, deciduous forest, mixed forest, lots of lakes, good fishing, mosquitoes, of course, and cold winters. This was near Rhinelander, Wisconsin. And a man named Stephen wanted to bring his family up to Lake George, outside of Rhinelander in Wisconsin, for a week vacation in June of 1999. They just wanted to go up there and have a nice time with the kids. They had 3 kids, and they were going to spend the whole week up there and just enjoy themselves. Their son, Aaron, was 6 years old at that time, and he was really into bugs. He liked to catch them, collect them, put them in jars, was really careful with them, didn't hurt them, and he would take them out of the jar like a butterfly, let's say, or any kind of a bug. He'd find all kinds of bugs, and he'd put it on his arm, and he would let the bug walk up his arm, and he would just stare at it, and then he would carefully grab it gently and put it back down, and then just watch it go back up. And he just loved observing nature. It was kind of like his thing. And he was the youngest of 3 kids. Denise and David were the older siblings, and they would give him crap about that. Just like, Mom, why is he so weird? Can't he just be normal like everyone else? Now the mom didn't like this kind of picking on Aaron because he's just a 6-year-old, he's just doing his thing. And so Stephen didn't like that the mom and the daughter would argue, and he would get a little uptight about them, like, you know, we didn't come up here to argue, so please, let's just keep it in check, can we? And the reason he mentioned that is that one day he heard Denise, the daughter, arguing with Aaron, and she said, "You did not see a caveman. Caveman went extinct with the dinosaurs." And Stephen he overheard this and he kind of chuckled and he goes, "Well, that's not quite accurate." But Aaron was really confident in himself, didn't care what she thought, and he kept saying, "You will see him. Doesn't matter. You'll see him. He'll be there." And she just would not let it go because she wanted him to agree with her that he did not see a caveman. And he knew what he saw. And so one day on this trip, Stephen was observing Aaron in the backyard, and he was sitting in a folding chair looking into the woods. It was late afternoon, and Stephen was rolling up some hose. He'd done some yard work, and he was just kind of watching Aaron. He was just still, just quiet, not moving a single muscle, just sitting there staring into the forest, intently listening. And Stephen thought, well, you know, I should go see how he's doing, make sure he's okay, and then maybe hang out with him a little bit, because, you know, to show some interest in what he's doing, even though I don't really understand what he's doing. And Aaron was sitting there, and he just slightly looked to his side, and he looked back at the forest, and he said, "I saw him again." And Stephen, the father, said, "What'd you see again?" And he said, "The caveman. If you're really still and you're really quiet, you can see him." And Stephen was like, "Okay, well, I'll support my son and, you know, show an interest in what he's doing and not tell him to knock it off or something." So he went and got a lawn chair. He sat right next to him. And they're both staring into the forest. And Stephen, all he could see was some squirrels and chipmunks moving around, a few birds. Late afternoon, the sun's still kind of high, but it's filtering through the forest. And he sat there for about a half an hour. Just wanted to support his son. Whatever that meant, he didn't really know what was going on. And he noticed about a little after that half hour, the forest went pretty quiet. Not suddenly, like a light switch, but one by one, things just got kind of quiet. The chipmunks kind of settled down and then were quiet, and the birds started not chirping anymore, and then before they knew it, it was really quiet. And he didn't think much of it, but Aaron said, no, just keep looking. You'll see it. And he looked for about 10 more minutes. He sat there, and then he said, "Well, I have to go in. I got to make a phone call. I'll be right back out." Aaron was like, "Okay." And so he went in the house. Aaron's just sitting in the backyard off towards the edge, looking straight into the forest. Stephen got on the phone, and he was in the front of the house, and he could look down the hallway, and there was a window, and he could see Aaron sitting in the chair looking into the forest. So he thought, okay, and he kind of was going back and forth, and he made a phone call to some friends, and they were chatting, and they were going to come up and visit Lake George sometime that summer, and they were making some plans. And just going back and forth, talking, he'd occasionally look down and take a look at Aaron, see how he's doing. He was only a 6-year-old kid, you know. And then he saw it. He was on the phone, and he's and he sees a person, or what he thinks is a person, walk into the backyard towards Aaron. And right away, his first thought was, oh, that's my neighbor. His neighbor at the lake would come over fairly regularly, just walk up to the house, walk into the backyard and visit, and say hi. And he was on the phone talking to his other friend, and he noticed something wasn't right. The neighbor was really tall, had dark hair all over, like he had a big long coat on or something. It was like brown to beige almost. Really big shoulders, and this flat face, just a flat, kind of a leathery face. And he also noticed it had long, yellowish fingernails. Creepy, wow, right? And immediately, once he computed all of that, he thought something is completely wrong here. He didn't say a word to his friend. He just hung up the phone, dropped the phone, and he went out the door around the side of the house, and he started yelling right away, hey, 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 to whatever it was. He wanted to start scaring it off. As he came around the corner, he just saw a glimpse of it going into the trees, the backside of it, the shoulders, with the brush was up over its waist already. And then he just heard it crashing through the woods, making sounds, and as it went farther and farther into the woods. And at that point, Aaron looked up at him and looked back out there, and he's like, see, Dad? See? That's the caveman. That's the caveman. And the dad was like, oh my gosh, I think we just saw a Sasquatch. You were right, Aaron. You did see the caveman. And he told his family about it. None of them believed him. But later, he matched his story up with Aaron. And he said, Aaron, can you describe exactly what you saw? Because he didn't want to put words into his mouth. And so right down to the same details he saw, even the long yellow fingernails that Stephen saw from the window, Aaron saw as well. And Aaron also said he came towards him and he didn't feel like he was going to hurt him, but Aaron was still scared. But he came up and it was kind of like that, and it kind of had this funny twitch, like when the flies land on a horse or something, they kind of got this twitch, that shake off the flies, which is really kind of creepy. And he mentioned that he twitching like that, and it was just kind of looking at him, kind of turning his head, and then as soon as the dad came out the door and the door slammed, he heard the hey, hey, hey. It turned, looked over its shoulder at Aaron, and then it disappeared in the woods, and that's when Stephen showed up. But for years afterwards, and the kids are all grown up, but the family would talk about this because they started to understand that they probably really saw something. And Aaron and Stephen really bonded over this over the years. They watched lots of movies, documentaries, read books on Sasquatch, and they never saw anything else again. They did hear over the years after that, while they had this cabin vacation home, they did hear things in the woods occasionally, but they never saw anything ever again while they were at Lake George in Rhinelander, Wisconsin. That's a pretty interesting story. I like that one. And I've heard stories about Sasquatch, Wendigo, Bigfoot. They're very curious about children and the sounds that they make, and their size maybe, and that they're very playful, and they're very much, themselves. They're usually not a threat. Children are usually not a threat to things like this. So things. So it has gotten really dark on me really fast. It took me a while to get set up. I'm hanging in there. Sometimes it's a little creepier when you're near a stream because the stream makes a lot of sounds, and you kind of get used to them, and sometimes they sound like footsteps or things moving around or even towards you. So it's a little funny feeling, but I'm hanging in there for the moment, but I gotta hike back to my vehicle and call it a video tonight. So hey, we're gonna have another video really soon, and thank you guys for watching. I'm not quitting anytime soon, and got more stories. Let me know what stories you'd like to hear about. I got some possible UFO stories, ghost stories, Bigfoot stories. I like that, those three. Also the missing persons. I've done missing persons, but let me know which ones you would prefer to hear. As always, we'll see you next time, and keep hiking. Good night.